Hey, who'd you talk to? What's going on? It's me. It's Mike Lepre, King Michael. This is Legit Fantasy Basketball from Legit Fantasy Sports. With me is the coach, Coach TJ. TJ, how are we tonight?
Good afternoon. Doing wonderful. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday to you. Happy Basketball Thursday. Let's bring in the genius. Genius Kev, how are you on this Basketball Thursday 8 o'clock hour?
Yep, have a great Thursday night, Mike. Excited to talk to Coach TJ as usual.
So, gentlemen, basketball. I don't want them to be, and we're not going to get into this long. They're not ambassadors. Just shut up, some of them. Like, just shut up. I can't stand social media because they gave athletes the ability to be stupid. I just think basketball, they come off like a bunch of big babies, a bunch of big spoiled babies, and you don't want to come off like that because we're not going to root for you. Like, real sports fans don't want the baby. I'm not going to be political. I'll keep the political part of it out. Just with the whole net situation and the stuff that's happened tonight, how are we feeling about the NBA right now? And you know, go lightly. But, TJ.
I mean,
you don't want to say what you're thinking, huh?
Well, I'll say a couple things. First of all, there's good teams in the league. So I'm about to shit on the entire league right now, but I'm enjoying what's happening at the top of the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference. I think we're going to have some really good playoffs. Kyrie got on me this week, man. Like I was so mad about Kyrie this week, and here's why. When I first saw, and you know, social media makes idiots out of all of us, right? So it's not just NBA athletes, and sometimes we forget how young these guys are. They're kids, man. I'm 42 years old. These guys are kids. The idea he had about making Kobe the logo, right? If you had asked me that last week and said, what do you think about making Kobe the logo? I'd have been all in, like straight up, like, you know what? A logo, especially the one they presented, it looks similar to the one we have now, but you can tell it's Kobe. And one thing about the NBA that I always found interesting is we haven't lost. A lot of the all-time greats are still alive. Like other sports are much older than the NBA. So if you think about it, there's not a lot of NBA legends who have passed on. Yeah. And Kobe's one of them, and he died young, and everybody loved him and loved his daughter, and he, you know. But then you read how Kyrie presents it, and we gotta go right to the bleeping race card. Like we're not gonna say to Kobe because he died too young and he was an ambassador of the game and he won championships and everybody loved him. Nope. It's because the logo guy's white. Like, get the fuck out of here with that. At this point with Kyrie Irving, can you stop? Like, can these guys just play ball? And you want to make your statements, that's fine. But does everything have to funnel down from the depths of friggin' Mars into race? Do we have to do that?
And you know what that was?
Good.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but they know what that was? He's a fisher. He's a fisherman. He lobbed that out there, bloop, and went like this. That's the kind of prick he is. He'll say stuff and go bloop and wait to get the attention. Wait for someone to call him out because he just loves that negative attention. I don't know what it is about the guy. Throughout his whole career, he just seems to like it. He doesn't kind of mind it. I looked at the logo and I immediately went, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Definitely change it to Kobe. And I said to my son, because I've heard about this before. They've talked about this before. I said, I saw a picture of Kobe as the logo. I'm like, dude, it's so awesome. And I actually said, and you know what? It's kind of great that he's a black kid. Like, that's a great thing, but don't bring that up as the only point you want it. Like, it feels like they took away from Kobe how great he was. Because he was like, like, dude.
If you guys asked me, describe Kobe and gave me 10 minutes to describe Kobe, I would never mention the word black one time by the time I got through 10 minutes. No. And most NBA fans would be the same thing. I'm not special. You ask me, all these guys, we talk about, oh, he did this, look at his relate. The first thing you think about with Kobe Kyrie is that he's black. Like that's the first thing you think to. And now I got to talk about your dumbass. Like, you know what? If that's why we're going to get rid of Jerry West, that's why. Like, why don't we get rid of Jerry West? Because we have an outdated logo that's been around for 50 years and we want to change it.
And he passed away. Like, yeah, exactly.
Give me that bullshit. And I'm hoping, and I'm really worried about this All-Star game. I'm worried it's not going to turn into the woke Olympics. Really.
Oh.
last year, when they started with the jerseys, I canceled my friggin' lead pass, not because I didn't want to watch the playoffs, because out of principle. And if it's so bad and everybody's so bad and it's race this, race that, well, then you don't get my friggin' $200 NBA. I'm sorry. And if we're gonna do this All-Star game thing, and I don't like a lot of things about the All-Star game, but I do like the concept, man. I always like the All-Star game. But if it's gonna be the woke Olympics, dude, I'll cancel my fucking lead pack as fast as I signed it up, because I'm not doing it.
I don't have those morals, because I remember last year when football got like that and a lot of people stopped watching football, and a lot of people were like, I'm just not going to watch them play. And I'm like, look, the Giants could open the game by punting babies into the stands. I'd still watch the game. I'd still be like, I don't give a shit. Give me some football. Like, I can't have something stop me from watching sports. However, Kyrie, stop fishing. Stop trying to make something a negative topic. Just why would you do that? I feel like you took away. Kev, your thoughts at all on this?
Yeah, so I guess to piggyback on something that TJ said, last year I stopped watching when the players wouldn't play, that they unilaterally canceled those games. I think on a Friday. I think because a police officer got acquitted in one of the shootings, and the police officer got acquitted, and they decided they weren't going to play, and they just canceled. And the NBA went along and canceled 3 games, and I was like, that's it, I'm done. I'm not watching again. I started watching again this season, because we were talking about doing a show, and I've always liked basketball, and I've kind of gotten really back into it because there are some really good teams that are fun to watch and all that. But if they started doing stuff like that again, I would be concerned.
But see, here's the thing: I can watch the games for free. I don't need to give them my money for league pass.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I'm saying? So that's a stand I can take. You don't get into my wallet. If I'm watching TNT, I already got TNT, brother. I mean, if it's around tonight, I can watch them for free. But that doesn't mean you get to get something out of my pocketbook. And I want to do this. I don't like the idea of this. If they want to create a culture where you're going to tell me I'm bad just for something I have no control over, like white people are bad. All right, cool. If you want me to pick a side, I'm going to pick a side. Like, I don't want to pick a side. I think it's stupid. But if you're going to tell me I have to pick a side, then kiss my ass. That's what I think. So, and Kyrie, Mike, you're right. And every time he's in the news, has it ever been for something like not negative?
Yeah.
Like the earth is flat. Brad Stevens asking Brad Stevens about the theories of life. Like, the guy's crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
But this Kobe thing is an absolute chance. Kobe is a unifying person. Not one. Kobe could do a lot of good by making Kobe the logo, because I don't know anybody has anything bad to say about Kobe, really. But right away we got to say we want Kobe because he's black. Well, you know what? Well,
the thing with him, obviously, you got some of the charges that the story turned out to be false, but I don't know what other stuff is out there. So I think that would be you'd probably get some backlash for the story in Colorado.
We talked about that, Kev. We brought it up in a post, and I don't want to bring up who one of our own, called him what he did. But the event actually wasn't, and I think he kind of got away with something on this one. But from what I know, and I've really, really tried to study into what happened.
You just got censored by.
It wasn't that it was a rape. It was that. Oh, it wasn't that it was like a full-on rape. It was that Kobe decided to go in the wrong hole.
Oh, God.
Come on, man.
And shut it down. And that's what it happened.
Listen.
That's what it happened from. And they don't want to say that, but that is what happened.
Yeah.
Look, that aside, when I think of Kobe, if that's going to be something we're going to complain about, but
not at all.
Just for that to be the reason, then now I got to give a no vote. How's that? Like, I got to give a no vote.
No, I always make the joke that was number 8. 24.
Make James Worthy. Give me a freaking break. But anyway,
James, no reason. All right, listen. The fact that we're talking about Kobe and how he is, it got me thinking. So it got me thinking because you brought up Kareem and how you made a run at Kareem being the best, right? So I literally did one of those deep dives today where I was just like, what do I want to talk about? And then I immediately forgot about this show. I immediately forgot about preparing, and I just enjoyed watching basketball. And I was just watching players, and I love watching players talk about players. So I came up with a list of 8 guys that I would want on my team, and we'll go over them one by one. But there's reasons, and I think that each guy could almost be considered well, except number 8, the first 7 could all be the best player of all time if you look at stats, or they're funny things. It depends on how you're looking at them. So let me go over some guys that I think that they just transcended a lot of things, all right, and could have been the greatest, literally. I'm going to just start with one guy that probably wasn't the greatest, but somebody that does not get enough respect from the people today as to what he did and brought, and that's Dr. J. Julius Erving was a Rutgers Park basketball player that brought a style to the ABA that they had never seen. He would do things that they never thought of. Michael Jordan actually said, when even Reggie Miller said, when they saw him do that under dunk against the Lakers, we floated, they immediately went out and tried to practice it. And Jordan actually said, I never would have thought of like doing certain moves if I never seen Dr. J do it. Like, you know how you have to see some things sometimes and go, oh, I can do that? And then kids start to pick it up, or they'll pick it up. Someone has to be the person, though, that does it first. And Dr. J, dude, that's an ambassador. Like, he brought the ABA over. He was like, all of a sudden, now the big star of the NBA. And he's like a genius. Like, what are your thoughts on Dr. J?
No, I agree with you. He was one of those guys where people saw him do stuff they didn't think they could do, and it was a lot of young people saw that. Like, Jordan's the best example, but tons of kids are just like, wow, you can do that. And like you watch those games, and you still see some of that stuff like that. Where it wasn't a dunk, but he starts on one side of the basket, ends up on the other, and flips it. You're like, how did he do that? Like, how did he have the body control to do those kinds of things? And best stuff is like being a Celtics fan. You watch him go against those Celtics teams, and it was the things he could do against those teams. Like, the Boston's were still generally better teams, but the stuff he could do, he would make. Like, Bird was a very different player. I think Bird was obviously a better player. But when you watch Dr. J and Bird go against each other, like the stuff Dr. J would do was just so sweet. It was also smooth. It was just like, wow, that's beautiful to watch.
He ruined the Lakers too, though. That lullaby cradle dunk on the Lakers, where he comes on, it was so like one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. And the force he throws it. TJ, what are your thoughts on the job? He can shoot too.
I have two. One, he's one of those guys where his peak was a time where basketball wasn't on TV every single night, like before so his prime was almost before Bird and Magic. So I feel like we missed a lot of his prime, and a lot of his stuff is legend because the footage isn't out there. Like ABA Dr. J was like freakishly good. By the time you get to the NBA, it was a little bit different. I think he's totally underrated overall all time, and I'm glad you brought him up. So I'm a Sixers fan, right? So the first time I ever cried about sports was Dr. J's last game. So I must have been, I think his last year was 87. So I'm about 7 or 8 years old, and that's about kind of aware of surroundings. And I remember it being Dr. J's last game, and it was super sad. Like, I cried. I can remember my father hugging me. Like, you're pathetic. This is basketball. What do you care? But I remember being upset about that. So, yeah, I'm glad you brought him up. I don't know if he falls into some all-time great category, but I'll tell you, you can't make an all-decade team in the 70s without putting him on the first team. And I wish there was more footage available, because you can go down a rabbit hole with Dr. J highlights. Like, that dude was ridiculous.
He brought the street, TJ. He brought the afro in, and the first guy to wear Chuck Taylors. Like, he did a thing where he brought this whole style in and made them adapt to him and change to him. Like,
it's crazy. He's like the first kind of, like, that era, like, he's like the first guy that didn't look like all the rest of the guys.
Exactly.
Like, the NBA in like the 60s and 70s, like, everybody pretty much looked the same. Like, everybody had the same shaved head. Everybody had the flat top of the shaved head. And then here comes Pistol Pete with floppy hair and Dr. J with an afro. And it was like, wait a minute. We don't have to be Red Auerbach robots to be good in this league. We can have our own style and personality. And I think the league owes him a lot for that, because you don't get guys like Iverson, and you don't get that shit without Dr. J saying, wait a minute, this is me. I'm going to be me. And that's awesome. It's awesome for the game.
Yeah.
Pat Riley called him an alien. He was like nothing like he'd ever seen before. And the other thing that stood out to me was Darryl Dawkins talks about that play, Kev. And the thing that's great about that play, if you watch in slow motion, is he changes the way that he's jumping midair. Because he jumps up, and you think that he's going to go up. Like, that's how, like, just physics. They said that he almost broke the law of physics. The fact that he goes straight, but then he kind of hung. It's like Dawkins said, he turns his hips the last second, and and decides I'm going to go sideways and go under. It's literally like he changes in midair. It's one of the greatest plays I've ever seen. And to hear Magic Johnson and Cooper talk about it, because if you watch the video, they're standing right there going,
yeah.
they literally were like, Magic goes to Scott, he says to Cooper after the play, he goes, give him the ball, let's see if he can do it again. I was thinking after the play, it was just that unbelievable. So, Dr. J is number one. I don't think he gets enough rub. I think, like, again, I heard the quote, it's a great quote. Would you start a team with him? Out of all the guys, would you start a whole organization? A league? Yeah, he's a great guy to be at. All right. So quickly, switching over to number 2. Now, I really think he could be the best player of all time, and I got ways of proving that, and that's because in his peak, I don't think there was anybody.
We lost him.
Better than that's Larry Bird. I'm a Laker like the Celtics growing up. Larry Bird. That's my man for being the greatest basketball player of all time. I've convinced myself that because if you look at his peak years, all right, Larry did things. If people forget the passing, the see everybody, how hard he played, he broke his face. He broke his cheekbone face and just came back because they were losing to beat Chuck Person. This dude was the first dude to be like, the 3-point contest, he walks in, famous story, who's coming in second. Like, he was, to me, a magician. And, like, he literally was like a magician to me. He had, it's weird, man. Some kids and some guys have that calm and cool, just staying cool when they shoot. Everything's just like as if it's nothing. Larry was like, everything he did was just unbelievable, in my opinion. I mean, look at his rebounds. You can compare him to like a center of the time, and he had like 9.7 rebounds, something like that 1 year. Like that. He's a beast. His point is crazy. He did anything.
Well, 6 times he averaged over 10 rebounds a game.
Yeah.
I mean, being up here in New England, I've heard enough about Larry Bird to last me a lifetime. I mean, he was great. I mean, his team was loaded. And I think that never gets held against him, but it gets held against some other guys. Like, that team was loaded. Yeah, I mean, Larry was good. He was a clutch player. I wish his career was longer. When you talk about all-time best, his career was really, really short. Like, his peak was – he might have been the best player for 5 years straight.
I'm not saying best career. I'm just saying, like, best player. Like,
was extremely high. But once he got hurt, I mean, anything after 30, when he turned 30, he was pretty much done. So, and I feel bad because it's not his fault he played so damn hard that he hurt himself 100 times. But, obviously it's Larry Bird.
Prime Larry Bird? What are they talking about prime Larry Bird? Prime Larry Bird?
I love me some prime Larry Bird.
Kev, baddest man on the planet.
Look, I was a huge Celtics fan as a teenager. It was like perfect timing. So, like 14, 15, 16, he was at his peak. He was averaging 10 rebounds, over 25 points. He had a couple of seasons, 28, 29 points a game, like absolutely insane. But the thing with him was like, he almost had a little bit of the Brady. And like Jordan was like this too, a Magic, where you never thought the game was over if it was close. Yep. You had Bird out there. You thought there was some way like that game against Detroit, where at the famous Johnny Most call, Larry Bird stole the ball. He stole the ball. Like I remember watching that game because they were done. It was over. The series was over, and he stole an Isaiah Thomas inbound pass over to DJ for the layup. Celtics win. I remember losing my freaking mind, and that was Bird. Like, he always somehow had a chance, until he got hurt, and then like he was missing more and more games. You could remember him laying on the sidelines, laying on his stomach, trying to stretch his back, like when he was out of the game. And it got kind of, it got painful at the end. But he had that 4 or 5 year run where he could do everything and anything, and he played so well. Good help defender. He was good. Better rebounder than he gets credit for. Amazing passer, like court awareness, everything.
Amazing. I mean, I'm blown away by his passing. All he did, to me, Bird was like God damn, he's up there with passing, and no one talks about that. And we all know he's going to hit the last shot. We all know that's what he does. Yeah. He'll find some way to get open. He's 6'9". He's going to get the shot off, But
Yeah.
in his prime, he could have been the best. Like, you could latch any team onto that guy and win. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
He's up to me.
That steal, though, I'll never forget. I'll never forget the Johnny Most call, the whole thing. Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So number 3, Wilt Chamberlain. This is a hard one, man, because he physically, and I still think he physically, like, I think he would have beat up Shaq. How about that? I think he would have bruised. No, I'm being serious. The problem with Wilt was like that he was smoking and drinking and screwing girls, like, you know, all the time. Like, that's what I said when he played the 70s. They didn't go king there. It's true. It happened with the NBA. That's why it dipped. But Wilt was like making kung fu movies, and he's like gigantic. He was the first like guy that was just so big. You know, he scored 100 points. If you want an example, and just a fact, they gave away pieces of that floor, of the Philly floor, one night. It was the Wilt Chamberlain night, and that's the one night I saw a Sixer game. I actually still have a piece of the floor that he scored 100 points on. But all right, so TJ, what do you think of Wilt Chamberlain?
I think no one ever talks about Wilt Chamberlain. His numbers are like ridiculous. Like, he averaged 20 rebounds a game, I think, like 8 times in a row. He averaged like 50 and damn near 30. It's just a different level of basketball. I don't know how much credence I give to the NBA pre-'80s, and I get into this a lot with Celtic fans who want to talk about their 17 titles. It's like, that's like, so I'm a Bears fan, right? You don't see me walking around here talking about Bears 11-time champions in the NFL, right? I would sound like an idiot if I did that. But the Bears have more NFL titles than the Patriots do, and that's an absolute fact, right? So if you want to go back far enough to the 50s, Wilt is the same thing. I feel like those numbers can easily be discarded because of who he's playing against. I mean, I'm 5'9", 5'10". I'm probably a 3 in the NBA at that time. But, my God, he did it. He would do things like, first of all, he would never foul out, which I always found that to be like a weird, quirky story. Like, so he just stopped playing defense if he picked up 5 fouls, which I thought that's like – like, if he felt like getting 10 assists, he would do it. Like, he was that good. I think one year he tried to lead the league in assists or something like that, and he finished with almost 10 assists a game. So there's a million great Wilt stories. The numbers, like some of his records, no one's ever averaging a 50-piece. It's just not going to happen. And he always, you know, Russell was better than Wilt. No, he wasn't. He played on better teams. Wilt was something totally unique and different. And to put him to scale – someone would have to come in the NBA right now being about 8'1" and talented in order to put to scale Wilt's like advantage over like regular guys. So yeah, awesome that you brought up Wilt. I'm glad you did.
Okay, but who in the NBA now could even deal with Wilt? Look at Wilt, how heavy he was, how muscular, how strong he was. He was ridiculously strong. The one thing that everyone has ever said about Wilt Chamberlain is how strong he was. Like, in practice, the things that he would do. He's absolutely convinced that he can manhandle Shaq. And if he would play Shaq, he would manhandle him.
I mean, Embiid's probably that big. There's not a lot of guys, Mike. You're right. All these years go by and generations, and everybody's bigger, stronger, faster, but they're still not as big, strong, and fast as him.
Yep.
It's kind of freakish, man. It's like he was born in a time machine and shipped back to the 60s to play against guys that, like, you know, worked at a jewelry factory all summer. Averaging 50 and 30. It's fucking wild.
Yeah. Yeah, TJ, he averaged 12 seasons in a row over 20 rebounds. He had one season, 50 points a game, 26 rebounds. Next season, 45 points a game, 24 rebounds. And then, like, people told him he needed to pass more. So he went 3 seasons with over 2 seasons, 7 assists and 8 assists. Like, he could do everything and anything. It was like, the game wasn't like a challenge for him. You know what I mean? It's like like I think he could have, if he were focused, and it's almost like when we talk about LeBron not having like killer instinct. It's almost like he was kind of the same way, where he had all these crazy stats, but like the Russell Celtics would, you know, usually got the better of him. It was, but his what he did do is unbelievable. It's like TJ said, an alien, like an 8-foot alien dropped into the NBA that had all the skills.
He partied too much, guys. If you go back and look at the times, he's always, I mean, you know, obviously he told in his book, he banged like, 7,000 million, whatever the number is, a Googling. The dude was a beast, though. And my point is, I think he would dominate now in the 80s, the 90s, whenever. That guy, 70s, 80s, 90s, whenever you want to talk about, He physically dominated. He beat people up, especially now with less penalties. He would kill teams. All right, so there's another guy to add to the list. All right, here's one for you. And this isn't just how he played. It also has to do with the culture pop. And you alluded to him earlier, and that's AI, Allen Iverson.
Oh.
For me, let me just say this first. What he did as a point guard was epic. What he brought to basketball and how he changed how basketball is. Like, Iverson was huge. What he made kids want to do, like learn, dribbling. Like, I don't know. I can make a long talk about how I thought he was, and he played like he was going to die if he didn't play as hard. I would want AI on my team any day of the week, twice on Sunday. That's my kind of guy. And plus, he's just an athlete off the charts. Like, the fact that he could dunk so high at his height, that he was so like ridiculous. Like, I don't know. AI to me, he's on my list of these guys that are, to me, generational. TJ.
I like how you throw. I don't know if you did this on purpose, but this is like your third Sixers guy.
Oh, my bad. Well,
so this is like right in my wheelhouse. So I love Iverson. Like, all about Iverson. I absolutely hate what he did to youth sports. Like, on a personal level, like this guy with the cross. How many times the kids getting called for carries because he was so skillful and quick that the shit he does, kids can't do it. Like, you just can't. You think you're doing it, but you can't do it, and it's illegal. But the way he would come and just attack from the beginning of a game to the end of a game, he was relentlessly attacking. And what Philadelphia did was they brought in like 5 goons, and they're like, hit every single guy in that roster when he hit his peak and they went to the finals. They had guys out there that were just there to rebound and set screens and knock you in the ass. Like, even guys were coming off. George Lynch were coming off the bench and just start hitting people. Like, that was an awesome group. That was an old fashioned kind of team. But what he did for the culture, unbelievable. I don't think people were ready for him at the time. I don't think the old buttoned up freaking NBA was ready for Iverson to come in and be like, nah. Like, you thought Jordan shorts were baggy. Iverson was walking with some sweatpants on. With full sleeves.
Braids, tattoos, and he brought rap music to tie up with the NBA.
And he had a record.
Yeah, he made his own rap record, but he also brought like rap people back to the NBA.
No, he was a legit athlete too. I'll tell you what. He's from Newport News, Virginia. That's one of the scariest places I've ever been in my life.
Yeah.
So to look like me and be in Newport News, it was like, whoa, this is like, this place is real. And he was a hell of a football player too. They say he could have been a football player. But yeah, Iverson, for what he did to the culture, and he led the league in scoring like 3 or 4 times. So he was coming out there getting buckets. And they can call him 6'1" on the damn basketball card. Bull crap. That boy's like 5'9" with hops. I can't say enough about Iverson. I can go on for hours. But I love how they built that team. And I know Steve Francis was kind of like trying to be him, and it didn't work out for him. But Iverson was like one of a kind. Even with today's point guards that score, maybe they score, no one is as relentless at just coming at you for 48 minutes. Iverson was coming, and no one could stay in front of him. Yeah, awesome. Dude, this is a hell of a list.
The only guy I would ever match or say that reminded me of Iverson in any way would be what I just forgot his name, Derrick Rose. Rose attacked somewhat. Like
for a minute. Yeah, he did. Good. That's a good call.
He's got hops, and he wasn't scared to come dunk on you for a little guy. You know what I mean? Kev, your thoughts on AI?
Like, I was never a huge AI fan. And you guys talked about all the reasons why, like all the stuff you said about the culture change and how he was. Like, I guess I'm one of those old school guys that TJ was saying what wasn't ready for it. So I think it paved the way for a lot of the stuff that we have now. But I'll never forget you guys already said everything to say about him, but I'll never forget the game 1 of the Lakers-Sixers finals. And Philly, I think, won in overtime, and he had some kind of monster game. And I was watching it with my girlfriend at the time, and I was like, there's no way Philly wins another game in this series. But he had that one magic, crazy night, and they didn't win another game. The Lakers won the next 4 and won the championship. But AI had that monster game, and I've really, like, in an NBA Finals where that team was overmatched by the Lakers, and he completely carried them as far as he could, and like that, he got that one, but that was it. I never thought he was like a real winner. I don't think. Did he ever win a championship? I don't think he did. I kind of held that against him.
No, but here's the thing. Two things. One, I remember him in Georgetown, right? Like that's where I go back with Iverson. I remember him playing college ball. Like he always was a beast, just a beast. Just somebody that was different to me. But he also brought in the fact now that players have to wear suits. So before AI, you could come dressed any way you wanted.
Oh, and he did.
Dress made them say everybody has to wear a suit. He made Kobe Bryant make a rap album, for Christ's sake. Think about that for 2 seconds.
You know, one thing, and everyone remembers it's famous, practice. We're talking about practice. Yeah. I don't think the common casual NBA fan, I feel like the common fan probably thinks the NBA teams are in there running like high school practices where there's running and sliding. Like an NBA practice is pretty much a walkthrough during the season. Like these guys, when those reporters are asking him about practice, I could almost feel his honesty. Like you're going to come in here and talk to me about practice. NBA teams, they're not even taking their hoodies off at practice in the middle of the season. Like you talk to me about practice, man. I'm going to go out here and I'm going to get knocked on my ass 35 times in the game, and you're going to talk. I feel like that people were put off by that, but I think NBA players are probably like, yeah, no, why are we talking about practice? Because it's shit right now.
True, but if you watch that Iverson movie they made, where he talks about it, like later on, he was drunk. He was drunk at that.
That's different. Yeah, of course.
He had a couple shots, and he went out there, and he was like practice. And then what you got was. If that's not the toppest, like there's two, not toppest. I use that word all the time. I'm such an idiot. It's not a word. So I don't know if it's got to be him. It's got to be him that brought all that in. I'm just gonna leave it at that. I'm gonna move on to. I got 4 more guys left. Again, number 8 is gonna be somebody that doesn't deserve to be there. But all right, I'm gonna bring up number 8 now. He's definitely not the best of all time. You guys probably would never put him on your list, but on my 8 guys that transcended basketball, that changed things. I'm going to put white chocolate, Jason Williams. Jason Williams brought a style of basketball with his passing and what he would do no one had ever seen. It was just like he took that up a notch. I'm telling you, him and Godsham God really made people pay attention to stuff like that. Made kids really, really want to learn all this between your legs, a fake stutter. I don't know, his incredible handles, ridiculous handles, well, maybe in my opinion one of the best passes ever. Other than that, the jumper wasn't really tall. I get all that. But that's what put him. He did one thing that was transcendent. DJ?
A couple things about him. First of all, I love the Sacramento team. When he was at Sacramento, when he first got drafted out of Sacramento, he was excited. Everything I know about him, he was the ultimate gym rat. Like almost a risk. Like, it's basketball from when he was in college. The way Allen saw the floor, brilliant. Like he saw things 4, 5, 6 ways. I don't know why. When I'm scrolling through Facebook, I keep seeing his 75 best plays for it. It comes up on my phone way too many times. And I watch it every time. That's probably why. Like he's throwing passes around the back off his elbow. He's throwing friggin' no look passes like on the ball reversal. Like catching it off this side and throwing it cross court on a bounce to Vlade. Like he was cool. And you know how he was really a good player, and all the highlights aside, he played in the league till he was like 36 years old.
Yeah, with the Heat. He won with the Heat.
He played on a bunch of teams. Like he bounced around because he was good. After it wasn't sexy anymore, he was a legit NBA.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Rayford Alston. So Rayford Alston was all fancy and didn't do shit. Jay will like come in and run your second unit, knock down open shots, and hit the open man. So I'm glad you brought him up. No, of course he's not in anyone's top 20 point guard list or anything like that. But anybody who plays a game that creatively, I think that's where we're going with this list. Like this is a list of unique individuals who play the game in a creative way, and it's good that you brought him up because he was awesome.
Kev, thoughts on J-Lo?
Yeah, it's funny. It's not funny. It's unfortunate, but I don't know much about the guy. I'm like looking at him now, and I'm gonna have to take your word for it. When he played, I was probably a little bit more disconnected from the NBA, and he wasn't like it sounds like what you guys are saying. He was like a consummate point guard, made some amazing plays, but he never really made it on my radar. So I'm gonna pass.
He was like a niche player, Cap. Like he was great for the highlights. If YouTube was alive then, he'd be a lot more famous than he is right now.
Chris Webber loved him. Chris Webber was.
That's all I need to know. I had a Chris Webber jersey.
There you go.
Secondly, in high school he played with Randy Moss, and he just fired up the Moss for the dunks, and they were unbelievable.
Yeah.
Thirdly, I watched the footage of his dad talking. Is that a word? Topless, whatever I said. His dad was like, he would go to the gym and he'd spend an hour and a half just whipping the ball behind his back against the wall as hard as he can. And I was like, you're wasting your time. He's going, no, I'm not. That's what I mean. Like, see, what was good about like when I told my son, like, I'm like, Mike, you better learn how to dribble because you're going to be short. Like, that was really what I told the kid when he was like 4 or 5. And he's an OCD kind of kid. So my son just went out there and dribble. And it got to the point where he started to play with kids who couldn't dribble 2 hands. And he can dribble 2 hands behind his back. All that shit. He's one of those kids who'll go home, put YouTube on, see some sort of move, and they'll be out there practicing. There's certain type of people that'll do that. Like, I would never have done that. I don't but they'll go out to these kids. Some of them, they'll watch the tape and they'll try. This dude had so many tapes that you would watch to try to do that pass, that move, that dribble. Same thing with the Sham God move. Like, things you just like, what the Christ is that? You know what I mean? That's kind of, I don't know.
Right, so I'm gonna look up. I'm gonna do like a YouTube thing of like Jason Williams like best
it's
play.
fun, man. It's fun stuff. And here's the thing: I hear kids all the time that think they work hard.
Yeah.
Like these NBA guys, and TJ McConnell comes to mind because a lot of people in my demographic say, "Oh, you know, my son could be the next TJ McConnell and make millions of dollars." TJ McConnell averaged like 45 points a game in high school. Like your kid's on the fucking JV. But when they say work, if he's in there spending an hour and a half throwing around the back passes, how many more hours do you think he's spending crossing over? These guys are putting in 10-hour days in the summer when they're 11 years old on some planet Mars obsession. Like these NBA guards, especially small ones, where you're not blessed at 6'7", they're so obsessed that these aren't the kids hanging out in cars with their friends and they're not riding bikes and they're not dating girls because they are buried in the gym. And even Isaiah Thomas from the Celtics, remember Isaiah?
Yeah.
But I can't possibly imagine the work ethic it takes for someone that size to play at an NBA level, guarding guys who are 6'6" in a switch, right? So Jay Will, and he wasn't even that quick. Like all love for Jay Will, man. Good call.
All right. So we got moving on. For the record, I'm not gonna name Michael Jordan. I put him to the side. Everyone knows him. Why would I even bring him up, right?
Yeah.
Hakeem Olajuwon. Now, I watched Hakeem play. I just kept watching the footage. First of all, probably the best footwork period. Probably the best footwork ever for center. Did I catch it right there, Kev? I was trying to time that some bit. So Olajuwon would do the spin drive. He had all these moves that he made, like all these great Hall of Fame centers just look stupid. Shaq feared him the most. He was just like, he had skills that only maybe Kareem could match as far as being athletic at that point. So they match up Kareem and Hakeem. That was a big thing. Like, who was better? Which one's better? Well, on defense, Olajuwon was much better on defense. He was a better blocker. He blocked more shots. He was better on defense. On offense, obviously it's Kareem, but Olajuwon had a lot of moves too. So athletically, they both were like ridiculous for that size. And they could play in any era. So he won that first championship without one all-star on the team with him. There wasn't anybody good on that team when he first won at Olajuwon. And he was a beast. Like when he was on, I mean, guys, you watch the videos of him, he makes guys look so stupid with the moves that he had. It's like, it's sick. TJ?
Yeah, so first thing about Olajuwon, because I like Olajuwon's unbelievable. His scoring numbers aren't as good as you think they are in your head. I'm going to tell you right now. Like, he wasn't a league leader in scoring, but he was better than David Robinson. He'll put anybody in the spins. Like, the Dream Shake is the most unguardable shit in the whole world. You can tell a big guy is going to be good in the NBA is if you hear in the offseason, Hakeem said he's going to work with him. Like, I knew Embiid was legit because they said in the Philly websites, no, Hakeem, because he doesn't work with bums. Oh, no, Hakeem's going to be working with Embiid. Like that means okay, this guy's legit. He was like he wasn't even he didn't even play basketball when he was little, which is freaking bizarro world. So he's just that freakishly gifted that he took this basketball and figured out, and he was a good shooter. It's not like he was a big dunking type guy. No. Unbelievable in the 90s. When Jordan stepped down for those 2 years, it was his to lose, and he won them both. So good for him on that. Good pick. I'm curious to know what would happen if Ralph Sampson had a career and they got to be down there together for a little bit more of a time, because that was when the NBA was a big league, but that Twin Tower stuff, that wasn't gonna be easy to beat if Ralph Sampson had a career.
No, and he won an MVP in the middle of Bird, Jordan, Magic, like Robinson, like the Dream Team. Like he still won an MVP. So it's like, I don't know. He to me, he's by far the most underrated person I've found when it comes to the young kids. This next group of kids coming up, they're like Elijah. Right. Dude.
And you can make a real fight. He was the best defensive center ever. Like you can get me in that argument and give me Hakeem, and I could probably make enough points to have a valid argument, because the guy was scary and like straight up fucking scary. Patrick Ewing wanted no part of Hakeem for his whole career. Like Pat's like looking for a sick day, hoping he gets a flu when Houston's coming to town, and that's a true story.
They asked Pat who he doesn't want to face, at least he'd want to face again, toughest, and it was Hakeem. They asked Shaq who's the toughest, Hakeem. They're like, what? And then it was Yao Ming. But then he's like, why Hakeem? He's like, I couldn't break him. Like, I came down, I elbowed him real hard. I looked at him. He went, ha, ha, ha. Nice elbow, young fella. And I was like, oh.
We have a lot of imported players in the NBA from all different parts of the world right now. But back then, if you remember, like there weren't that many guys coming from straight up like Africa to the NBA with the culture difference. Growing up in poverty, that Americans, we think we're poor and our freaking homeless people have iPhones and eat McDonald's. Like that's some poor shit. Like you're not gonna break a guy like Hakeem who made the trip from there to here, and he was a problem.
Yeah,
Hakeem was a Muslim, so he had he couldn't eat or drink anything. It's Ramadan, right before like.
I played with a Muslim.
I played a day game and had 40 points. Not one sip of water. That's crazy to me. Like you gotta think about that for 1 second. A whole NBA game, you went the whole day through the game. You didn't have a single thing to eat, single drop of water ever. 40 points.
I played in college with a dude from Senegal, and he was a practicing Muslim, and during Ramadan, that's real. Like we didn't slow down practice either. Like this is it. And he would. Yeah, no, Hakeem, good list, dude.
Yeah, so just a couple of comments. You guys said, I loved him. I loved watching him play. That finals, the Rockets against the Celtics, where the Celtics won in '86, was a good series. I mean, I'm glad the Celtics won, but it was awesome to see the Rockets get there, because that was a Twin Towers series. And like TJ said, unfortunately Ralph Sampson didn't last, but Hakeem, his first 12 seasons, he was over 20-10. His first 12 seasons. And he had four seasons over 26 points, and then he kind of fell off. So he did have that crazy run where everything went through, through him on the Rockets offense. And we talked about this one other time, TJ, where it was almost like the beginning of like a different style of play, because the Houston offense was get it to Olajuwon. If he can't do anything, everyone else stands around the perimeter, and someone's going to shoot a three. And they, and that obviously the threes became much more prevalent after that. But I think Houston has always been ahead analytics wise, but I think they kind of started something there. But he was just so much fun to watch, because he was like a force of nature.
I really was hoping he would get Barkley the ring that Barkley deserved.
Yeah.
I remember when Barkley went to Houston, it was like he's going to try and chase a ring. Yeah, Chuck deserved one, and they fell short. They had terrible uniforms that season.
They had Pippen too. Right?
Yeah, they tried. They tried.
They had Pippen.
Yeah.
It was just too late.
All right, we got two guys left on the list, so we'll go the easy route on this one. Coming in at number 7 would be Lual Cinder, aka Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
We don't have to spend too much time on Kareem, because I gave him 20 minutes 2 weeks ago. But
no. But I want to talk about what I as a Laker fan, and the rabbit hole I went down. First of all, the old Kareem was around during like the peak of Jordan and a Bird and Magic. So I think people our age have a bad impression of Kareem. We used to the balding old Kareem. A younger Kareem played such a more skillful game, could shoot from anywhere. First guy to face up another center, and go by him. He just was so unbelievably athletic for a guy that big. Like, so unbelievably athletic for a guy that big. Bless you. My problem, though, with Kareem only problem I had with Kareem, and I was, again, a Lakers fan, he cried after. You should watch the videos. Not one foul has he ever committed. Every time they throw a foul on Kareem, YouTube it. Every foul, he goes, like, what? What is it, Kareem? Really? Not one time? There's not one time. He goes, yeah, that's me, dude. Me. Not one. Come on. But unbelievable. Like, unbelievable. TJ, you want to add anything? I know you talked to him before, but.
Yeah, I mean, Bill Simmons calls him a ninny. Tim Duncan also has not committed a foul to date yet. So if you have Kareem and Tim Duncan, man, if you're the ref that draws those two in the same night, call in sick.
You gotta add LeBron to that too, because LeBron still hasn't committed a foul either. If you had those three, forget it.
Forget it. The game takes 6 hours and they'll whine the whole time. Yeah, no, young Kareem, I loved. I wish there was a way. I was at my father's tonight, as you guys know, and he was watching football games from like when he was 10 years old, so 1970 football. I got to spend more time to try and access some Bucks Kareem footage.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just a matter of digging in and trying to find it. I'm sure somebody that's listening could do it. But Bucks Kareem and Skyhook Goggle Kareem are two different players. And I feel like if we can get people to see more of Bucks Kareem, they'll have a bigger appreciation for him, because I do remember Robert Parrish like beating him down the floor. Yeah. And I think Bucks Kareem is a whole different story when he was clearly the best player in the world at that time. So, yeah.
So my favorite Kareem story is the one that's told about how he plays that first game against the Celtics. And he actually said he felt like he was in a different time. Like he couldn't keep up with everybody on the floor. Like it literally, the game was running past him. That's how he felt. So Magic tells a story that they're on the bus to go to the next game, right? Now, no one rides the bus unless you're on the team, period. That's Pat Riley's rule. Here comes Kareem with his dad. Kareem is an old, guy. He gets on the bus. He goes, "My dad's gonna ride with us." And Magic was like, "Oh, no one's ever been talking." And Pat Riley was like, "That's fine." And that's what Kareem needed, because that second game he came out after that game, he kicked the shit out of the Celtics. That was like one of those games where you're like, it felt good because it proved to me that like you can lose really bad, but then like regain yourself, get your center, and to come out and show that you really are that good. Like that wasn't you last game. And that to me was like one of the best, like one game to the next type. No, I'm this good. By the way, I was this really good for a long time.
And there's always something cool about an old guy like giving it one last run. Like
Foreman.
I remember the showdowns Bird was having with Chuck Person when his Bird's back was pretty much in like shaped like the letter S. But I'm not even a Celtics fan. But when he comes out here and he was putting on that shirt, you can't help but not root for that guy. Or like an old starting pitcher in baseball that's going to give you one more outing to get us. That was cool. That Kareem anecdote is a really good one, because when you see a guy dig in and put it together, that's really awesome.
Yeah. Can you just a couple of comments from you there? Obviously, you guys hit the young Kareem, and I love TJ's idea. I would love to watch some of those Milwaukee games. But as like a Celtics fan, like obviously the Lakers are the arch rival. You hate them. Kareem, watching him in those years, like he was like old, bald, wearing the goggles. He was super tall, obviously, but he was thin. And I'm looking at him like, but he would score. He was averaging over 20 points a game all those years, and he did it like smooth, and he made it look easy. And I'm like, big guys are supposed to bang. And Kareem wasn't banging. He was sky hooks and all these little bunny shots and just consistent night in, night out. Every single night he was just up and down the floor. So he did like his end was not like his beginning, but it's probably a little better than people think. At least stats wise, he was in the right place at the right time.
At the end, he had a little bit of Tim Duncan to him, where he didn't dunk if he didn't have to. He didn't take the beat if he didn't have to. So he'll get an offensive rebound and just lay it back in and run down.
Yep.
Like he had a lot of that to him. Like Duncan didn't really take a beating, whereas Embiid's gonna try and dunk it and take the hit. But Kareem, and they called him soft for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. But he wasn't soft. He was freaking smart. That's why he played to be 42 with no damn health care and no nutrition program.
That's the other, all right. So that's the other part of Kareem. Again, like all these kids and all these people that everything's going on nowadays, like they don't know Kareem. They didn't study Kareem because like with everything that they're trying to do, like all these, they're trying to be these spokespeople. Kareem handled his business just like he was like you know what, he would always in the media, like he would always, him and Jim Brown were like the first two people that would gather, like because he was respected. I mean, he was respected. That period of the story, he really was. And he was in movies. Come on, guys, right? He fought Bruce Lee. Who else? Like Kareem had a lot of great times. Like he was in the Airplane, maybe one of the funniest movies ever. Like I don't know. So I think the kids nowadays have no idea about Kareem, and I like the Kareem
right now. If somebody was making a public service announcement about the culture coming from the NBA, I'd spend more time listening to it if it was Kareem talking about some issues in the community than listening to LeBron go on some bullshit that he doesn't understand. The players now who are talking about race relations could not even possibly live a month in Kareem's world when he was coming up in the 60s and 50s. And what he went through at UCLA, LeBron has had his ass kissed since he was about 11 years old. Kareem went through more racial shit and Jim Brown at the same time, but we're in an NBA situation. Kareem went through more racial stuff that probably all three of us can't imagine, and definitely some 25-year-old kid like LeBron who's had his ass handed to him since he was like – LeBron's been getting free sneakers since he was like 9.
Yeah.
He was going through some real racial – so if the NBA wants a spokesperson to put out in front of some racial commercial, instead of having Kyrie who went to fucking Duke, right, maybe we put Kareem out there to talk about the real stuff and about how good things are right now.
Yep.
So, Kareem, there we go.
I would listen to Kareem, too. That's the funny part. All right. One more left on my list. And that's probably my second favorite basketball player of all time, Kobe Bryant. My favorite's James Worthy. It's just a thing. But so here's Kobe. Now, I get the whole copy of Jordan. Like that's the problem that I have that people say right away, and I go, yeah, I get that. All right, I get it. He did copy Jordan, but I don't blame him for that. Jordan taught him some moves. He learned them. They friggin' work. He does them. What I want to say is defensively, he was incredible, right? He played defense, offensive. I mean, shooting, like the way he played, the young Kobe could jump. People forget this too. Young Kobe used to jump out of the rafters. Like his dunks were ridiculous. I mean, ridiculous. He won the slam dunk contest, I think. And now, like the older Kobe didn't dunk really. He didn't do like these crazy, ridiculous, like game dunks. But it's his work ethic, and it's like all those guys. They got to be borderline douchebags to be that good. You got to be like because you're so committed to what you need to get accomplished that you're always. If you're really going to be successful, you're going to crack tons of eggs because you cannot please both sides, everybody. You just can't do it. Just can't do it. And he didn't give a shit. He just wanted to get better. The best story I heard about him was when he now keep in mind he grew up in Italy. He had to learn Italian as a kid, like, and then he didn't come to the United States until like Birchwood Middle School. Dude, what a rotten time to be like coming from Italy and being like junior high for Christ's sake. He had trouble reading and learning the English language at first. And he's catching up. And then he starts just like he at 18 said they asked him if he was going to go straight to the NBA or go to college. He was one of the first guards, I believe, here at the NBA. It was usually just tall people. And Kobe goes, well, if I think that college will make me better, I'll go. But if it's not going to make me better, I'm just going to get paid for it. Because he didn't know about college. He came from Italy. He was from in Italy. Like, so all he knew was traveling, playing basketball. He just wanted to play ball. So in his head, I'm either going to play for college for free, or I'm just going to go straight to the NBA. Like, what are they going to teach me? I've been practicing. I'm going to practice it on my own. Like, he's literally the only kid that I would go, yeah, you should go because of his work ethic. Usually it's like guys like, I forget the most famous one is that center for the Clippers that went straight to the NBA. And it's like, good luck, dude. Kwame Brown, right? Kwame Brown went right to the NBA. right?
Did, but he go to the Clippers. But yeah, Kwame.
I didn't know the Clippers. He's just a cold.
Yeah. No.
Anyway, my point is he went like as a kid, and he had that game of shooting the air balls and all that shit. But again, my favorite story was when he came to junior high ball, he would show up a half hour before the coach, meaning he would shoot a half hour in the dark. Literally would just shoot in the dark. That's obsessive, like crazy. Like, dude, what are you shooting in the dark for? Like, that's what I would say to the kid. Any normal kid, I'd be like, dude, you're an idiot for shooting in the dark. But he's Kobe. He's literally practiced. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is I think that his comparison that Jordan drops him down in people's opinion, they immediately go, oh, 1B or 2, immediately because of the comparison. But I don't know. I think Kobe had his own shit. Like, I think he brought some stuff too, I think. And I think he brought a work ethic to kids. Like, this is a dude that, like, he publicized the fact that, yeah, I'm a jerk, but it's because I work crazy. And I demand that of everybody around me. So, like, that's kind of jerky. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's kind of jerky, but it's still admirable. I mean, how do you not, like, love a guy for his work ethic? To me, that's my favorite thing about sports is when someone has a crazy work ethic. I know that may be silly. That's what I enjoy. I enjoy the passion of it. TJ?
So the first thing is, it's not Kobe's fault that he was the same height and body type as Jordan. Mm-hmm. Like, he didn't decide, you know what, when you're born, you don't get a menu of like, do I want to be built like, do I want to be 6'5", 230 or 7? Like, he didn't know. That's his body and that's how he played. Like, I don't buy that stuff. Like, that's what he looked like and that's how he was built. So if you're built with that body type, you're going to model your game after Jordan. Who else are you going to model it after? So I don't hold that against him. I think the biggest thing that can be held up against him is that he played with Shaq and Jordan did. And that's a big thing. So those rings, you can make a case Kobe wasn't the best player on any of those teams that won the title. You could say Shaq was the reason why they won the title, whatever it is. And the fact that you can have that discussion fairly and be fair to both sides, and you cannot have that discussion with Jordan. Like, it wasn't Pippen's team. Pippen was on the team. It wasn't Pippen's team. You could say those Lakers teams were Shaq's teams.
But you could flip that and say it's not Kobe's fault. He happened to be on a team with the second most physical player of all time. Like, how good is that? He was good, but he was more physical.
You're definitely splitting hairs, right? So, it's not. Neither one of those things are his fault. But I think the best part about Kobe was when he got towards the end.
Yep.
Not the championship Kobe, not the young Kobe, not bouncy. It was NBA spokesman Kobe. It was, I've been there. I'm a badass. I'm going to tell you how it is. I'm going to swear in this interview. If I feel like saying the word shit, I'm going to say it. I'm going to call out media. Like, when he got to that veteran point, and even after he retired and he started doing those ESPN things, breaking down film, it's like freaking basketball porn. He was just so unafraid to say what he had to say and challenge people and be like, well, I worked harder than all of these guys. And Jordan never really did that kind of stuff. Like, he does it now, but when Jordan was at the end in Washington, he wasn't calling out guys. Like, Kobe would call out players on other teams, even though he wasn't as good as those guys anymore. He wasn't scared to say anything about anything. And I think he was become like the patriarch of the NBA those last few years. And for him to go out with like a 60 piece was like just
unbelievable
from the heavens. Like, and we were talking about guys having a last hurrah. Like, I forgot. I can't believe I didn't mention that. If you're watching that game and you didn't want Kobe to go for 50, like, there's something wrong with you, man. Like, you got like a jealousy block in your body. But yeah, Kobe for all the right reasons. Now, I don't know if he's better than Jordan if you switch him. I don't know, but he's right there. Like, he's just definitely right there.
Yeah, and the later Kobe, the reflecting Kobe, was by far my favorite.
Yeah, the reflecting Kobe.
Everybody like you could tell, dude. I guess maybe because I'm old, but you could tell when someone was older and they're looking back on what they did. And there's so the wormhole I went down eventually ended up with tape of a practice, and you can't. It's far away, right? But you can hear what's being said on the court. And I guess they come out and they play soft. And all of a sudden, you just out here and you all playing soft as shit. But he's swearing at them. He's like, uncomfortable. This is gonna be the most uncomfortable motherfucking practice you motherfuckers ever been to. You soft, and he's going on and on. I mean, as the game's going, the practice is going. He's still calling them mother effers and yelling at them and hitting them, and they're like, one guy actually goes like, man, you make it sound like we ain't never gonna get better, and he's like, he goes, there's gonna be another practice. I'm like, oh yeah. just keep yelling, man. He's great. I don't know.
Yeah, the thing with Kobe, you guys said a lot about it, so I'm just going to take a slightly different angle. The thing with Kobe that's tough, especially as like not being a Lakers fan, it's like I appreciate the killer instinct. I think he had the most killer instinct, probably one of the most competitive guys as like Jordan, but somehow Jordan seems likable. Kobe does not seem likable. I don't think I'd want to play against Kobe. I don't think I'd want to play with Kobe. I don't think I'd want to sit down and have a conversation with Kobe. It just seems like it would be unpleasant. It seems like everything about the guy would be unpleasant, and that somehow it rubs off.
Beautiful point. I was thinking that earlier, but here's the issue. Jordan was just as big a prick. Somehow they made Jordan. He was so brand new, Jordan, right after Bird and Magic, that everyone loved him, right? Kobe. Every arena hated him but respected him because of the faces he would make, the things he would do. Everyone else hated him, but that was his job. That's what he lived for. And that hatred eventually becomes respect as he walks like the sun go around. As he keeps going around the earth and he keeps getting older, it all became respect from all the other cities. Yep. They begrudgingly, hated.
It's kind of like the second wife thing, right? So you got the wife, right? So your brother's got a wife, and then here comes the smoking hot second wife, and people like resent her because she's not the first wife. And I feel like there was some of that. Well, we already had Jordan, and you're trying to be like Jordan, and we love Jordan, and here's the new Jordan. We don't like you. Like you can't sit with us. And I feel like there was a lot of that with Kobe when he first came up because, well, he just wants to be like Jordan. Well, shit. Nike created an entire campaign about trying to be like Mike, and so I feel like there was a lot of that with him at the beginning. But you said I don't think I'd want to play with him either. Like really, I wouldn't want to play with him, but I would definitely want to talk to him. And if I could coach a team and pick probably any NBA player that could be like my right hand assistant that could just talk hoops with, it's Kobe, because I feel like he loved the game and worked the game so hard. Like, I'll talk to him. But, I wouldn't want to be a teammate with him. Who needs him breathing down your throat? And you outwork him. So, you know what I mean? Like,
he made a mistake, too, coming into the league because he comes into the league and he's dating Brandy. I mean, it was like, it made everybody go like, ah. Like, it really was like, just like, ah. I don't know about the fact you went to Brandy's prom. And then he dropped a rap album. Because Iverson did, right? And then he does. So now he looks like he's copying Iverson, right? And then he started to grow the hair. He grew his hair out, the tattoo. I just feel like Kobe, he was like a second late to a bunch of different things. And, he played the villain well. I don't know. So this would be the guys I'm rolling with. This is my team of guys.
I like them. I'm going to bust out a team next week that's like this. I think this was a fun exercise.
Yeah.
Can I just say one thing? Kobe was the 13th pick in his draft. Like really? Like,
that's crazy.
Like, so Iverson went first. Okay, I can live with Iverson. I can live with Marcus Camby. Fine. I can live with Marbury and Ray Allen and Antoine Walker even because he was coming out of Kentucky. But you mean to tell me somebody saw Vitaly Potapov go play? Somebody saw that son of a bitch play and was like, you know what? I'm going to take him instead of Kobe or Steve Nash. Like, some GM did that.
Makes no sense. It makes no sense. And how do you just trade him right away to the Lakers?
I don't know, but I'm sitting here in my basement, and there's no way I would be as bad as that freaking pick right there. It's craziness. Total craziness. I'm
gonna end with one thing. So my favorite thing that I ended up watching was the question to what's his face, Phil Jackson, and it was, if you had you're in a game, you had to have one shot, make one shot. Who would you pick? And he said, if the game was on the line, it's Michael Jordan. And he goes, but if you held my mother the gunpoint, it's Larry Bird.
Wow.
Huh. That to me means Jordan was the better player in his mind. But if you needed one shot taken care of, there's nobody that had more ice in their veins for that one shot. than Larry Bird. What do you think about that, TJ? Do you agree with that? That Bird might have been the better finisher?
Well, if you had my mother to gunpoint, I want Shaq taking a dunk. So that's how I'm going to answer that question. But in the spirit of what they were asking Phil Jackson, yeah, I get that. I get it. A lot of these two guards that have a reputation of making a lot of big shots have a worse make percentage than your brain tells you, because they're the guys that take so many. And maybe it's because Larry's a legend and you only see the highlights of what you want to see. But I feel like every time the guy had a big shot, he made it.
Me too. Yeah,
like, it really. And I'm sure we weren't. Well, I wasn't watching the '84 Celtics on a Tuesday.
Oh, I was.
But I feel like Bird just made every big shot, and he talked shit and let you know he was going to do it first. Like, there's a lot of great Bird stories.
The best.
And,
those are the best.
And if Phil Jackson says it, I mean, who the hell am I to go against Phil Jackson? But my answer's still better. You got to go with Shaq on a dunk.
Yeah, Shaq at one point was so physically dominant that it was scary. But Kev, your thoughts?
Yeah. No, I love that. And I brought it up 3 times already. Like, you never ever with Bird, you never ever thought you were out of it. You almost had the analogy to football, like the Tom Brady factor. Like, you always thought there was some way you could pull it off. Jordan was, Jordan. I don't know. So it was a little bit different, but I wouldn't argue with either one. If someone said Jordan, someone said Bird, I could argue either side. But it's Phil Jackson, so I'll go with what he said.
Guys, you have anything to say before we wrap up? Because we passed the hour. TJ?
No, I mean, the big story in the NBA right now is the Celtics, the wheels falling off the Celtics. So if they continue to fall off next week, we'll do some current events next week and talk about how the wheels are falling off, who's to blame, and that kind of stuff. That's interesting to me. We get this coming up at 8 strong next week too.
Yeah, I would. TJ, I would love to do that. Let's definitely do that, because I'm going to have probably the contrary opinion, because I think they're going to put it together. I think there's going to be. I think everyone's down on them now. I think they can only go up. So let's definitely do it.
Well, there's not too many spots below them to go at this.
That's what I said.
my good friend Mark says they're going to go 8-2 out of the next 10, and they'll be the 4 seed. And I just, the way they're playing, I don't see it. I really don't.
I don't see 8-2 at all. At all.
We shall see.
All right, guys. So, again, this was another Thursday night of Legit Fantasy Basketball. Please visit legitfantasysports.com. If you have any questions for any one of us, you can hit us up with an email. You can check us out on Twitter, Instagram, same name, legitfantasysports.com. So, for the coach, TJ, and the genius Kev, this is me, Mike Lepre, the King Mike L, with Legit Fantasy Basketball, saying thank you, and we will see you next week. We are out.